Welcome to the Rockies to Cumorah YouTube channel today. My name is Brian Nettles, and today I will be going over Alma Chapter 2, Tracing the Troop Movements. Now, before I go over this presentation, I'd like to go over the whole reason why I'm putting this presentation together. It all started about 3 years ago in 2017 when I went with my son on a vacation where we went to Nauvoo, Illinois, Kirtland, Ohio, Palmyra, New York, the Hill Cumorah. We also visited several of the Native American mound sites, such as the Newark Earthworks, as well as sites in Illinois. It was a very educational and interesting experience. Now, one of the things I really wanted to do while on that vacation was I wanted to see the Zarahemla Temple site. I reached out to Wayne May, and he was willing to give me the name of a friend of his that could get me access to that site. And so I called that person, and he showed me around several locations in the area, and in the end, he dropped us off at the Zarahemla Temple site. I loved it. So we continued on our vacation, going to all the places I wanted to go to, and then a couple months later, I was reading in the Book of Mormon, and I went through Alma Chapter 2, reading about the battle with Zarahemla Site, and I was absolutely blown away. Since that time, I've wanted to put this video together, and finally, I've got some time, so here we go. Doctrine and Covenants, section 125, verse 3. Let them build up a city unto my name upon the land opposite the city of Nauvoo, and let the name of Zarahemla be named upon it. Today, more and more members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are coming to conclude that the exact location of the city of Zarahemla is exactly where this verse states it to be. Now, to give you the big picture, if you're not familiar with this dynamic, I recommend that you do a YouTube search, Wayne May, Book of Mormon Geography, and he will open your eyes. I also recommend watching some videos by Rod Meldrum as well. Very interesting stuff. But the basics of what we got here is we've got Lehi's Landing down near northern Florida or perhaps in Georgia. We've got the land of Nephi up in the Tennessee area. We've got Zarahemla, exactly where it states in Doctrine and Covenants. We've got the Newark Earthworks in Ohio to represent the city Bountiful. Cumorah is up in New York, and the Narrow Pass is in an area that goes up into Michigan. This map is to give you the big picture of the area. I have written in Hermounts over here. I don't really know if this is Hermounts. It's just a possible site for Hermounts. We've got Zarahemla in this crescent area, which is mostly surrounded by small mountains and hilltops. You've got the temple site of the Zarahemla area directly across the river from Nauvoo. Just north of Nauvoo, there's a very interesting hill, which apparently is a Native American mound, and it, by many accounts, has the appearance of being a fort. There are also other hills that could satisfy the requirement for a hill Amnihu. Nevertheless, I still put the pinpoint at that Native American mound. There's the Des Moines Rapids. I'm going to cover the Des Moines Rapids in a moment, but notice it's between Nauvoo and Keokuk. We've got the Valley of Gideon listed here. Now, I'm also going to say that I do not know exactly where the Valley of Gideon is. However, I do believe that this is a strong candidate. Now, let's take a little bit of time to talk about the Des Moines Rapids. This is important because in Alma Chapter 2, there was a river crossing by foot. So if we think that we know where the land of Zarahemla is, there must also be a place on the river Sidon where someone could cross the river on foot. So this is what Wikipedia says. The Des Moines Rapids between Nauvoo, Illinois and Keokuk, Iowa, Hamilton, Illinois, is one of two major rapids on the Mississippi River that limited steamboat traffic on the river through the early 19th century. Various attempts to make the river navigable started in 1837 when a channel was blasted through the rapids by U.S. Army Corps of Engineers team led by Robert E. Lee. A canal around the rapids was built in 1877. It is now obliterated by Lock and Dam number 19. The other major rapids barring traffic on the Mississippi is the Rock Island Rapids. The Mississippi in its natural state widens from 2,500 feet to 4,500 feet in width at Nauvoo, as it drops 22 feet over 11 miles over shallow limestone rocks to the confluence with Des Moines. According to records, its mean depth through the rapids was 2.4 feet and much less in many places. So we have the Des Moines Rapids, an area which allowed crossing by foot over the Mississippi River. And you can see on the map, it starts just south of Nauvoo and goes to Keokuk. Now let's go ahead and read the chapter now. Alma, chapter 2. And it came to pass in the commencement of the 5th year of their reign, there began to be a contention among the people. For a certain man being called Amlici, he being a very cunning man, yea, a wise man as to the wisdom of the world, he being after the order of the man that slew Gideon by the sword, who was executed according to the law. Now this Amlici had, by his cunning, drawn away much people after him, even so much that they began to be very powerful, and they began to endeavor to establish Amlici to be a king over the people. Now this was alarming to the people of the church, and also to all those who had not been drawn away after the persuasions of Amlici, for they knew that according to their law that such things must be established by the voice of the people. Therefore, if it were possible that Amlici should gain the voice of the people, he, being a wicked man, would deprive them of their rights and privileges of the church, for it was his intent to destroy the church of God. And it came to pass that the people assembled themselves together throughout all the land, every man according to his mind, whether it were for or against Amlici, in separate bodies having much dispute and wonderful contentions one with another. And thus they did assemble themselves together to cast in their voices concerning the matter, and they were laid before the judges. And it came to pass that the voice of the people came against Amlici, that he was not made king over the people. Now this did cause much joy in the hearts of those who were against him, but Amlici did stir up those who were in his favor to anger against those who were not in his favor. And it came to pass that they gathered themselves together, and did consecrate Amlici to be their king. Now when Amlici was made king over them, he commanded them that they should take up arms against their brethren, and this he did that he might subject them to him. Now the people of Amlici were distinguished by the name of Amlici, being called Amlicites, and the remainder were called Nephites, or the people of God. Therefore the people of the Nephites were aware of the intent of the Amlicites, and therefore they did prepare to meet them. Yea, they did arm themselves with swords, and with scimitars, and with bows, and with arrows, and with stones, and with slings, and with all manner of weapons of war, of every kind. And thus they were prepared to meet the Amlicites at the time of their coming. And there were appointed captains, and higher captains, and chief captains, according to their numbers. And it came to pass that Amlici did arm his men with all manner of weapons of war of every kind. And he also appointed rulers and leaders over his people, to lead them to war against their brethren. And it came to pass that the Amlicites came upon the hill Amnihu, which was east of the river Sidon, which ran by the land of Zarahemla, and there they began to make war with the Nephites. Now Alma, being the chief judge and the governor of the people of Nephi, therefore he went up with his people, yea, with his captains and chief captains, yea, at the head of his armies, against the Amlicites to battle. And they began to slay the Amlicites upon the hill east of Sidon. And the Amlicites did contend with the Nephites with great strength, insomuch that many of the Nephites did fall before the Amlicites. Nevertheless, the Lord did strengthen the hand of the Nephites, that they slew the Amlicites with great slaughter, that they began to flee before them. Well, let's take a moment to look at some pictures of this hill Amnihu. It doesn't look like much here. This is just a picture from within the mound. It didn't really seem to make much sense to take pictures of the mound because it seemed like it was just taking pictures of forest area. There is a sign in the mound area, and you can see at the very bottom of it, it says that this board was created by Scott Peterson for his Eagle Project back in 2013. And he lists Janice and Wilson Curley as the stewards of the land. My tour guide took me there at a time when the Curleys were not home as they were on vacation during that week. However, he told us that he had received permission from the Curleys to bring people onto the premises, and so we walked around for a while in that mound area. The Curleys are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I have been told that they do firmly believe this to be the actual site of the hill Amnihu. There's this interesting boulder here on this mound, and being a mound, you're not going to have natural boulders as it was man-made, so this boulder must have been manually carried up by people. Then an interesting aspect about this boulder is that there is a lunar alignment coming from the temple lot of Zarahemla on the other side of the river, and hence our tour guide pointed this out to us. Let's continue with the chapter now. And it came to pass that the Nephites did pursue the Amlicites all that day, and did slay them with much slaughter, insomuch that there were slain of the Amlicites 12,532 souls, and there were slain of the Nephites 6,562 souls. And it came to pass that when Alma could pursue the Amlicites no longer, he caused that his people should pitch their tents in the valley of Gideon, the valley being called after that Gideon, who was slain by the hand of Nehor with the sword. And in this valley the Nephites did pitch their tents for the night. And Alma sent spies to follow the remnant of the Amlicites, that he might know of their plans and their plots, whereby he might guard himself against them, that he might preserve his people from being destroyed. Okay, now, the text at this point does not say that they went south to the valley of Gideon. It's not specified. However, when you get to verse 24, you will see that the southern movement is implied. It must also be implied that the valley of Gideon can only be a few miles away from the hill Amnihu, as the battle and the travel to the valley of Gideon all took place in one day. Verse 22, Now those whom he had sent out to watch the camp of the Amlicites were called Zeram and Amnor and Manti and Limher. These were they who went out with their men to watch the camp of the Amlicites. And it came to pass that on the morrow they returned into the camp of the Nephites in great haste, being greatly astonished and struck with much fear, saying, Behold, we followed the camp of the Amlicites, and to our great astonishment in the land of Mound, above the land of Zarahemla, in the course of the land of Nephi, we saw a numerous host of the Lamanites, and behold, the Amlicites have joined them. And they are upon our brethren in that land, and they are fleeing before them with their flocks, and their wives, and their children, towards our city. And except we make haste, they obtain possession of our city, and our fathers, and our wives, and our children be slain. Okay, so here in verse 24, we could see that the land of Mound is above the land of Zarahemla. Okay, so we have high grounds in all of this land right here. Add to that, it says, in the course of the land of Nephi. So they came from the course of the land of Nephi. So the land of Nephi is further south. And this means that the Lamanites would have come up from the south and either would have come into the land of Mound via the Des Moines Rapids, or they would have come up and crossed over the Des Moines River by a bridge and then come into the land of Mound. And it came to pass that the people of Nephi took their tents, and departed out of the valley of Gideon towards their city, which was the city of Zarahemla. And behold, as they were crossing the river Sidon, the Lamanites and the Amlicites, being as numerous almost as it were as the sands of the sea, came upon them to destroy them. Nevertheless, the Nephites, being strengthened by the hand of the Lord, having prayed mightily to him that he would deliver them out of the hands of their enemies, therefore the Lord did hear their cries, and did strengthen them, and the Lamanites and the Amlicites did fall before them. And it came to pass that Alma fought with Amlicite with the sword, face to face, and they did contend mightily one with another. And it came to pass that Alma, being a man of God, being exercised with much faith, cried, saying, O Lord, have mercy and spare my life, that I may be an instrument in thy hands to save and preserve this people. Now when Alma had said these words, he contended again with Amlicite, and he was strengthened, insomuch that he slew Amlicite with the sword. And he also contended with the king of the Lamanites. But the king of the Lamanites fled back from before Alma and sent his guards to contend with Alma. But Alma with his guards contended with the guards of the king of the Lamanites until he slew and drove them back. And thus he cleared the ground, or rather the bank, which was on the west of the river Sidon, throwing the bodies of the Lamanites who had been slain into the waters of Sidon, that thereby his people might have room to cross and contend with the Lamanites and the Amlicites on the west side of the river Sidon. And it came to pass that when they had all crossed the river Sidon, that the Lamanites and the Amlicites began to flee before them, notwithstanding they were so numerous that they could not be numbered. Now it does not say here that they crossed by foot, but had they not crossed by foot, they would have had a lot of canoes or some other mechanism for them to cross the river. Therefore, it is somewhat implied that they must have crossed by foot. Verse 36, and they fled before the Nephites toward the wilderness which was west and north, away beyond the borders of the land, and the Nephites did pursue them with their might and did slay them. Now this is what I find very interesting about this map. If they have this battle over here, near Sandusky, then as the Lamanites are fleeing, they would first try to flee to the west. Then they would hit the Des Moines River, and they would have to start pushing up north, and back to the west, and then once again towards the north. Yea, they were met on every hand, and slain and driven until they were scattered on the west and on the north, until they had reached the wilderness which was called Hermounts. And it was that part of the wilderness which was infested by wild and ravenous beasts. And it came to pass that many died in the wilderness of their wounds, and were devoured by those beasts, and also the vultures of the air. And their bones have been found, and have been heaped up on the earth. And that concludes the battle with Amlici, a battle that is 100% consistent with the geographical outlay of the area of Zarahemla. Since I began putting this presentation together, I have learned that John Lefgren has been researching the Des Moines Rapids, including digging into the details of the report given by the former Civil War leader Robert E. Lee. While the Wikipedia report makes it sound as though the river could have been crossed anywhere upon the Des Moines Rapids, according to John's reports, there are only a few select locations where this was possible, possibly only one location. John is working with Wayne May as well as other highly trained professionals to organize this research project to scan the river bottom and determine the exact location of the on-foot river crossing of this battle. Please go to the website https://zarahemla.site/Sidon to learn more about this project. If it pleases you, you can even donate to help get the project off the ground.